What's up YouTube, it's Zieg Zeon here coming at you with another Gundam War deck profile, and today we are looking at a mono green weenies deck that I'm bringing to you, so let's jump into it. First of all, as usual, we are running 13 generations. I think the design of the green generation is actually pretty cool, like not the design but just like the green color scheme is nice. I don't like that the English cards come only with black and white colors on the generations, but hey ho, it is what it is. So 13 gens, you can, as usual, as I say, you can play around with this number, but I kind of like to hit generations so I can play the other cards. So 13 seems to be a fairly good spot for me. Start with the units. One costs 3 Zaku 2s. Any color that has access to a 1-drop 202 that can go to both Earth and space is definitely worth running in my book. We have 3 Zaku 2s. What we're trying to do here is just get out loads of cheap units. If we have to sacrifice them, we will. We're just gonna draw a ton of cards off them. So 3 Zaku 2s, fantastic card to start with. We also have 3 copies of Zaku 1. A little bit weaker, only comes with the 1 strike points. However, it can still go to Earth and space. It doesn't even cost you the 1 card. It costs 0 cards. You just need to have 1 green generation down, and it's quick. So it means you can drop it during your opponent's turn as well. You can drop it on top of running a Zaku out. There's a bit of a restriction, I think, on the units that you can only drop 1 extra card with quick per turn. Fine, not a problem. When you drop this card, when it comes into play in reroll status, making it just wonderful. Our opponent attacks, we surprise them with the Zaku 1. Comes in reroll, send it up to block wherever. Happy days. It's a 102. Can withstand a little bit of a beating, not a hell of a lot, but it also can strike back to some of those units that only have the 1 defense point. Let's get into cards that draw us cards. We're running a playset of Gatl. You could run Dop if you want to run Dop. The only difference is that Dop can only go to Earth, Gatl can only go to space. Is that a problem? Not really. Depends, what you're looking to play against. You could potentially run a 2-2 split of 2 Gatls and 2 Dops. The really interesting point here is that even though they have the X for strike points, they aren't battleships. So even though you can't drop them on top of running a Zaku 2, for example, but you can change their shooting and defense points if you put a pilot on them. So when this card is put in play, at the end of the turn, you draw a card, which is good, replaces itself. We like that. We just want to get more weenie units into our hands. Moving on to turn 2 now. So when I say turn 2, I mean 2 generations. We have a playset of Goof, Fenrir Army model. I have a soft spot for Goof in general. This particularly is a cool looking one. Can only go to Earth, so we're almost covering that weakness that we see with Gatl. We have, 1 unit for each area. Goof is a little bit different because you get to draw the card when this card is sent to the junkyard. So if you send this guy in like a suicide mission just to block something, chump block, fine, fair enough. I'm just gonna net a card off that. Happy days. And also, it's a fairly good unit as well. It's a 302, which is decent. To be fair, it is definitely decent. Okay, so put these away, and then is the turn 2's there. This is pretty much the only card actually we have for turn 2. Turn 3, we're running a playset of Mash's Dom, mostly for the quick and the assault. Predominantly for the quick, and with Mesh's Dom, because I haven't got any of the ultra rare Gaia's Dom. We're running 3 Ortega's Dom. but even just these two complement each other really well. You can definitely have your Earth side sort of defended with these two. If you put Mash's Dome to the front and you put Ortega's Dome behind, you have both with Assault. There are a bit of shenanigans you can do with the effects. I'm not really going to read through those because they can be good, but they're very circumstantial. So we're realistically just running these guys for their stats and most importantly for the quick effects that they have. Nice units though, nice units. And then, last but not least, we are also running two top ones, big row. This unit can only go to space, so of course this is quite a usual symptom for green, that many of their units can only go either to Earth or to space. That's what we're trying to compensate with our very early Zaku drops. Those guys can go anywhere, so those will be our bread and butter in trying to defend either area, and then these guys will be our sort of get damaging kind of units. So Token's Bigro, very good card with a high mobility. It's a 3-2-4 as well, so you know you combine high mob with a 3-2-4 unit. That's really good in my books to start with. And then in your resolution, if you pay 1, if you have a character card set on this unit, you can roll one of your opponent's character cards without a new type designation battling against this card. Now what's really cool about that is that I believe that's also going to roll the units that you're attacking, that you're battling, because in this particular case, I believe that effect, if it affects the pilot, it will also affect the unit. Not necessarily a problem if it only affects the character, because there are many characters that come with a sort of like tap effect. Tap it and it does something. So just make sure that you put this on the chain, and when they tap, you then play top ones bigger and basically stop them from doing so. That's pretty much the best you can do with it. This is also a good unit that could be combined with some other effects that maybe remove tabbed characters or tabbed units. So it's definitely worthwhile tinkering around with. Onto the pilots, we have one Aina, which is a fantastic card, very, very, very early, in fact, one total generation card, good with the shooting and the defense points plus, and also she has a very, very good effect in the defense step. You can roll her, and you can also roll one of your opponent's character cards with a male designation to negate the effect of that character card until the end of this turn. Particularly doing this in defense step is really useful. Really like this card. I really wish I had more than just the one copy. But one copy is always better than none. This is a fairly new addition. Water mobility is a fantastic effect if used properly and used carefully. Flanagan Boon can grant any of the units water mobility. This is the only card, this is the only character in the game that does that, at least in the 3 English sets, including the starter and the promos. Making this a very versatile card. If you guys don't know, if you have a squad that only consists of water mobility cards, your opponent's battle units effects is all going to be wiped out unless they also have water mobility. So this makes a very, very, very good card to play around with. On top of that, during your opponent's defense step, for free, you can move a unit card in reroll status with this card set on the same battle area as your opponent's unit cards. If your opponent's unit cards are both areas, choose one. So what you can do is, your opponent attacks, you move into your defense, and if there is, for some reason, something that might be stopping you from moving a card up, you can still utilize Flanagan Boon's effect and still bring a unit up to defend. But just running this guy as a 1-gen card with the 1-1-0 and the water mobility is fantastic on its own, realistically. And then we're also running 2 Nikki Roberts. I think this is the MVP of this deck. Comes down with 2 total generations. It's a 101 extra to your unit, which is probably the best one you can have for a beater unit, particularly if you put this on the big row, for example. And you can also you can pay one and move this guy on top of your nation power. So you can basically evacuate this guy if there's something going wrong. You can do this any point during the battle phase. So that could be all the way down to the return step, resolution step, whenever. If the unit is destroyed, evacuate this guy, save obviously Nikki Roberts, draw into him next turn again. Also, for free, by literally just rolling 2 of your generation cards, you can give a unit in the same squad as this guy 1 shooting points. You can't do this twice on the same unit, but you can have 2, 3, 4 shooting units in your squad. So for every 2 generations you got, you can just buff your team for free. And I think for green especially, which kind of lacks those really high level, high shooting point, even high strike point units, Nikki Roberts is a godsend. It's a very good card, particularly for a common. I mean, it does so many things for a common card. I think pretty much every green deck should run at least a couple of Nikki Roberts cards. But now we got to the meat of the deck, and this will be our command and our operation cards. Operation cards, very simple. We're just running a playset of the Zeon Cross Medal. I just can't tell you guys how good this card is. Slight errata to it, but it says draw 1 card each time 1 unique card from either player moves to the junkyard. It has to have been on the battlefield before it moves to the junkyard. So you can't just discard a card and then draw a card off this. It has to have been in on the field before. Not a problem realistically. As you can see, we are more than well equipped to bring down a bunch of units pretty much at all times. We got 9 units that come down with quick. All the other units come down very cheap as well, except the big row, which is our sort of like the big unit that we have in the deck. But basically, just to give you guys an idea, you can have, for example, you get a Goof removed. If you have 1 Zeon Cross Medal out, you get this card out for a chump block. Okay, it's sent to the junkyard. You're gonna draw 2 cards of it. I had a situation where I had 2 of these out. Same case, Goof went to the junkyard, actually drew 3 cards of that. I mean, that's just fantastic. And you do this for all your units, you do this for all your opponent's units. Only thing you want to be careful is not to deck yourself out with this card. So more often than not, you will find having just the 1 down is more than enough. But we have to have the playset. You want to have this draw engine running because it's probably the best draw engines in the entire game. And the units themselves lend themselves for extra card draw as well, as you could see, not just with Goof, but Gattle as well. We also have Goof, as I mentioned, not Goof, Dot, as I mentioned previously, so there's a lot of opportunities to draw cards here. And then our commands aren't bad either. Lady Spy Infiltration, basically pretty much stops our opponent from playing any cards except the generation during their turn. They still can attack, which is fine, but they cannot play any cards. This is particularly good, and also it's a 1/1/0, so it's a no-brainer to run it. Particularly good when you have a target inside with the Red Comet. This is the most efficient single unit removal in the game because it comes down with 1 generator. It doesn't cost you any cards to play, and it's a straight up resolution step. Give 3 damage to 1 unit in the battle area, earth or space. Works really well with the Zeon Cross Medal, of course. If you remove something, you will then basically draw a card of it. 3 is also pretty good. I mean, 2 is not bad. You know, if you look at 2, which one is that in white? The 2 removal. I think it's Assault, the one that gives 2 damage in white, but that has a cost to it. This one doesn't, and it works super well with Lady Spy Infiltration. They can't counter it. You play Lady Spy. You let it resolve, move to combat if your opponent moves to combat. Play the Red Comet, remove that unit, draw a card. You might be defending as well, so you may remove another unit or two they have on the side because they're overstretched. Get more cards of Zeon Cross Meld. So really low cost, very efficient commands and operations is what green does. And then last but not least, because we have probably kamikazed some of our units into our opponent just to chump block, just to draw cards, we run 3 Project Christmas commands. This certainly is very good for what it does. During the battle phase, you just basically pick a unit out of your junkyard and put it into the station area in reroll status. You have to pay its cost, not a problem. Remember, if you play this card at the beginning of your attack step or during your opponent's defense step, then that unit is able to go out and attack or defend. So if that card happens to be, you drop another Gettle, yes, you draw a card of it, and it works really well with us, chumping, removing our opponent's stuff, sacrificing our own units, get more cards into, and then we bring them back with Project Christmas. Most of our units won't have a massive cost. The only card that has a 2 card cost is the Big Row, with the 2 there, and that's the only one that we really see more than a 1 cost. But the 2 DOMs, they only have 1 cost. The Goof has a 1 cost. Zaku 1 costs nothing. Zaku 2 costs only the 1. Gattle costs 0. So very cheap and efficient cards. And it's just an absolute fun deck to play with because you don't really care about your units. You know that you probably have another hand, another couple in your hand. You can just drop next turn. You're probably gonna draw cards off it as well when they go into the junkyard. So a fantastic little build. Yes, again, you could put a lot of different things here, but this is just like your basic green weenie setup. There's certainly different avenues you can go down. You may want to go and look at being more defensive early on with green and then get into the big units later in the game. But you will find that all the big units for green are behind that super rare wall, which is very difficult to break in this game. 15, 16 years after it was produced, it's difficult to find those cards. Not that they're not, they are out there, but just not necessarily easy to get to. But anyway, this is the green weenies. I hope you enjoyed this video. Make sure you give us a like. Make sure you subscribe if you haven't yet. Leave a comment below if you want to talk about these green weenies or Gundam War in general. And up until next time, bye bye.